Good evening, this is David Caldecott bringing you Time Not Here. This is my debut novel. I'm sharing these videos on YouTube and Facebook if you want to listen along from the beginning so that you're up to speed, or if you'd like to just drop into this chapter and see what you find, then I think you'll have a good time. We are on part 4, which is titled Serenity, chapter 20. Daniel returns to work. He's met with curiosity and intrigue from his colleagues, some of whom know where he's been. He tries to explain what happened, and with each retelling of the journey with Kimber, his memory and ability to communicate it all did improve. As expected, no one truly understands the lessons he's learned, or they understand the words living in the moment, but react as if it's no big deal, like it isn't as magical as he feels it is. A cliché of self-help gurus rather than a magnificent personal choice. He remembers the way he used to look at spiritually minded people, assuming that they were crazy or dumb, or that they'd missed the point of enlightenment and all the science it had brought. Now, as he speaks about gorilla visions and sun deities, he sees the same look of confused skepticism in his colleagues' faces. Nevertheless, all of them comment that he is different, that his eyes look different, that he has a new vibe. Though behind the surprise and encouragement, a hint of envy is stark. Unsurprisingly, his ability to do his job well has also improved. He's now fully present with customers, aware of their experience, noticing how they move, speak, and feel. Before, during the years he'd spent serving tables, any conversation that might strike up between him and a guest would have a time limit set by his mind. He's going to think I'm weird if I stay here too long. I should get back. I'm not going to know what to say next, and there's going to be a long, terrible silence if I don't get out of there right. Now, all of that is absent. He's just here, chatting now. Occasionally, he catches his mind wandering, distracting him from fully experiencing the present moment. When it happens, he takes a deep breath and asks himself those 4 questions, and comes back. Where am I? Who am I with? What am I doing? And how does it feel? It had affected every aspect of his life. Within a few hours of arriving home from the ceremony, he had gotten to work cleaning and decorating the house, which had remained largely unfurnished and barren since Lath's departure. First, he had moved the white sofa and his ginger throne into the living room, facing them towards each other. In the space now empty in the conservatory, he had placed a couple of foam mattresses that he had found in the attic, covering them with the Moroccan blankets he had bought during his gap year, creating something of an Arabic-style lounge. Daniel had transformed the building into his new home, complete with an altar inspired by Joseph and Magda's shrine, that housed small stone statues, a Buddha figurine, and a little bag that Magda had given him before he left, containing 3 seeds of the Kimber plant. Returning home from work, he can sense the change in the air from the lack of clutter and the aesthetically pleasing position of the furniture. It's minimalist, Zen, Feng Shui, or whatever. It's peaceful. He sits on his ginger throne and rests quietly for a while, breathing deeply and letting the tranquility of the space be felt deep within himself. Try as he might, though, he still can't displace the residual unease he feels about the year that had preceded him. There's something unresolved that remains, something he can't quite pinpoint. Something that results in a general avoidance of even thinking about Lath. Could it mean he's coming back? He writes in his journal. Am I tapping into a data stream again, like I'd done in the supermarket all those times? Is the peace of this house soon to be disturbed again? During his first trip to the supermarket after the ceremony, he fills his bags and watches the angry parents and underloved children with compassion. Those poor folks, just like I used to be. Look how seriously they're taking things, and how they think they know everything. How silly this all is. He approaches the self-service checkout machines. The music playing through the store changes to the song Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. Romantic, emotional, and raw. The song feels out of place. He looks around and sees the usual array of customers shuffling around as they grab their microwave meals and lottery tickets, now doing so to the tune of "Oh, my love, My darling. He chuckles and looks down at the metallic beast in front of him. First, he scans his cucumber. Beep. Then his coffee. Beep. Unexpected item in the bagging area, the machine yells out. The voice is half robotic, half human, female voice that he's heard a dozen times, yet never noticed. He laughs again, removes the last item, scans it properly, and returns it to the sensitive bagging area. He taps the pay button. Do you have a club card? The machine shouts. He hears a symphony of robotic voices coming from all around him, a futuristic dystopia with brain-dead consumers obeying the commands of machines as they shove their money into hungry coin slots so they can rush home and enjoy their congealed ball of sugar, masquerading as a health food. Insert cash into the slots provided, the machine demands. He looks at the front of the monster. A large sign says, Cash in. Underneath the text is a large red arrow, pointing at the only thing on its body that remotely resembles where you might put money in, the one coin slot. Daniel laughs again. Thank God that sign was there. I'd never have found that coin slot without it. He takes out his wallet and counts the coins, moving at the same slow and steady pace that he'd walked around the store with. Do you wish to continue? The machine yells out, impatient. He pays, packs up his bags, and turns to see a human being dressed like a clone, all in green, wearing a little name badge that reads Sharon. A smiley face is drawn on the badge, pinned to her blouse. She's been watching him conduct his slow purchase, laughing to himself at the ridiculousness of the beeping brats. Hello, he says with a smile as he steps away from the machine. Can I help you with anything? She blurts, going into full automatic mode and calling forth the cliches of her training seminars. No, I'm great, thank you. She looks confused, as if a customer greeting her without wanting something is not a typical day at the office. Have a nice day. He leaves her smiling, watching his turtle-like pace towards the exit. As he reaches the revolving doors, the song reaches its crescendo. I need your love. Indeed they do. Hi, my name's Peaches. Daniel arrives at work for his evening shift and is met by a new manager. She's going to be completing her London-based training with a 2-week on-the-job, thrown-in-the-deep-end stint in the York branch, before starting properly in the new Manchester site. Hello, Peaches. Daniel reaches out his hand to shake hers. She awkwardly sticks her arm out and grabs his hand, giving it a firm and over-the-top shake. Quite the handshake you've got there. She chortles with a suddenness and exaggeration that makes his eyes widen. This is Daniel, his manager introduces him, reminding everyone that he was the one who should be introducing people. He's one of our best waiters, Gorilla Dan. He laughs, then swings his arm around and down onto Daniel's shoulder, patting it a few times. She looks confused. Gorilla? Long story. Daniel gives a wry smile. I'm looking forward to working with you, Peaches. Anything you need, just ask. He watches this unusual woman as she's given a tour by the boss. She's a foot taller than Daniel, heavy set and with a square frame. Her hair is black and cut very short around the back and sides, with a long fringe that she had dyed purple. Her lips show evidence of more piercings than lipstick worn. The way she walks is strange, somehow looking both rushed and lazy, dragging herself quickly around the place, her arms swinging about as she turns. Their manager delivers his training speech and she stares wide-eyed at him, occasionally nodding and smiling in a way that appears manufactured, as if it was saying, yes, look, I am listening, I am definitely listening. She brings the same lazy, rushed vibe to her conversations, talking too fast and trying too hard to predict what the other person is going to say, rather than patiently waiting to hear it from their own mouths. So what, you like bananas or something? She asks while scratching her belly, as Daniel pours drinks for one of his tables. He laughs and puts the glasses on the tray. Another waiter approaches the bar and says he'll deliver them, giving Daniel a few moments to speak with Peaches. No, I like them, sure, but that's not why he calls me Gorilla Dan. Why then? I gotta know. She leans her elbow on the counter, arching her back to the side and crossing her legs, before abruptly repositioning to stand straight now, with her arms down and loose by her side, before leaning her hand on the same counter and placing the other hand on her hip. Daniel stands motionless during her unease, breathing steadily and patiently waiting for her to get comfortable, as he smiles in an attempt to reassure her. Well, recently, about 2 weeks actually, I had something of a spiritual experience. What, like a meditation thing? She interrupts. Sort of. He looks out towards his tables. His customers are still eating and not in need of his attention. More like a psychedelic medicine. A plant called kimba that's been used for thousands of years by African tribes to understand themselves and become better people. My friend took mushrooms once. He said he saw demons coming to get him. Is it like that? Daniel takes a deep breath. Not really. It's very ceremonial. There's lots of incense and sharing and a whole lot of visions. She nods and says, like the placebo effect, right? He looks confused for a moment, then smiles and says, no, it's very real. He notices a suit-wearing solo diner looking around, wiping his lips with a napkin. Time to get back to work. Peaches is blinking quickly, staring at him like a deer in the headlights. The lunchtime rush had ended, and Daniel had brought a tray of cutlery to the bar to be polished. He picks up a handful of forks and drops them into the hot water bath. Well, I had a lot of visions. I saw events from my childhood from multiple perspectives, and a whole load of other stuff. In one vision, I felt what it was like to be a gorilla, running through the jungle. Christ, that sounds intense. Her eyes wider than ever. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I could feel my breath, the weight of my body, the abstract thoughts I was having, like as the gorilla. Hence Gorilla Dan. Exactly. He starts on the knives. Why did you do it? She asks. Kimber? Yeah, what made you go do it? He takes a breath and clears his throat. Well, I was going through some pretty dark times, and I had a really bad year involving a difficult housemate and some pretty serious depression. I wanted to understand why I did the things I did. She pauses. So it was like a self-help kind of thing. In a way, yes. It's almost like getting 10 years of therapy crammed into one 24-hour period. I saw in vivid detail all the things I've ever done, good and bad. I was confronted with my own self and forced to confront my demons in a safe place, full of love. I could never do that, she shakes her head and sighs. I'd be terrified that I'd see something awful. Seeing awful things is kind of the point. Daniel gives her a warm smile. Otherwise, they just sit there in the back of the mind, running rampage in the dark until you decide to confront and deal with them. Did it do what you hoped? She asked after a few moments of silence. And more. He tosses the dirty polishing cloth into the sink and continues. It taught me how to live in the present moment, and how many of my bad decisions and depressing behavior was because I was obsessing too much about the past and worrying too much about the future. She looks a mixture of impressed and dumbfounded, as if she'd been told something that was beyond her current understanding, but that somehow kind of made sense. You sound a lot like most of the people in my hometown, she chortles. Oh yeah? Yeah, Glastonbury is weird, man. Is that why you saw the gorilla? She asks after a few more moments. Daniel smiles again. It played a part, yes, but the gorilla vision was mostly related to the second big vision that came through in the ceremony. The first being that I needed to learn how to live in the present moment. The second lesson was that I needed to learn how to be a more courageous man. She shifts her weight and looks even more uncomfortable. It took me a while after the ceremony to put the pieces together, though. The gorilla had no doubts in his mind, no worries. He just was. He was a male animal, and he knew it. To his core. I'd had difficulty feeling courageous, assertive, and confident in my entire adult life, and the gorilla taught me that All it takes to access my natural masculinity, my courage, etc., was to simply be present in each moment. I am, after all, a male animal, too. And if I get out of my own way, natural masculinity has no choice but to come through. The gorilla showed me how to be a better man, to balance love and strength, the desire to get shit done, and then the will to make it happen. All the things that the great men throughout history have tapped into, acts of bravery and tenacity to challenge the status quo. Right, she says after a while spent staring blankly at him. Left, he replies with a smile. While closing up the restaurant later that night, Peaches joins him outside to stack the steel-framed tables and chairs. She struggles to lift a heavy stack of 3 chairs. Daniel walks over and offers to help. He lifts the stack with little effort, causing his biceps to flex. That's the first time I've felt like a woman my whole life, Peaches laughs. Good, Daniel smiles back. Jose, the cheerful Spaniard who'd been Daniel's rescuer on the morning after Lade's departure, arrives at work excited. What are you so buzzed about? Daniel asks. I'm happy because today I booked my flights to Vietnam. I leave in 6 weeks and I do not want to wait. Jose had been talking about his next adventure non-stop over the past few days, a 6-month backpacking ramble across Southeast Asia, followed by a year or 2 in New Zealand, where he hoped to find work and save up enough money for the next leg of his journey. Daniel is thrilled for him. That night, Daniel thinks about how much he loved traveling, how the whole reason he had tried to start a business in the first place was so that he could afford to travel more. The irony is that he had traveled less in the last 6 years than most of his 9-to-5 office-working friends from uni had. First, I need to get rich, then I can travel. That mantra had driven his life for years. Why should it be that way round, he wonders. I think I want to travel again, he tells Jose the next morning. You know, Kimber basically told me that I needed to learn how to live in the moment before I could learn more. So what better way to live in the moment more than to travel, right? You should, man. I don't want to be the only crazy person with a backpack, Jose laughs. I'd love to run a business online where I could just send a few emails and make a few calls from anywhere in the world and know that the business is running fine. It wouldn't have to pay me much, just enough to cover for hostels and occasional flights. I have no idea what business it would be, though. That doesn't matter, Jose says. I'm sure you'll think of something. After some reflection during the lunchtime rush, he joins Jose on a break to share his thinking. So, as far as I can see, I've got 2 options. One is that I spend the next 6 months saving up and go on a big adventure with a lot of cash. The second is that I save what I can for the next 4 weeks until my tenancy at the house runs out, and instead of going through the hassle of finding a new house, I just pack a bag and leave with whatever money I have. That sounds like a big risk. What if you gotten into trouble? Well, I'd be insured, of course, but if I, say, lost my laptop or ran out of money, I'd just focus on being present, and I'd figure my way out of it. There's no point in worrying now about what might happen then. Jose gives him a look that suggests that what he said was dreadfully irresponsible. I think it's the right thing for me. I want a big change. I want to meet new people and learn new things. I want some time to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life now. He can sense the contradictions in what he's saying, that he should be living in the moment, yet is thinking about what to do with his future. But living in the moment doesn't mean ignoring the future, just that you plan for it in the right place and time. Not while working, not while on a date, not while lying in bed while trying to sleep. If he was in another country where he didn't have a full-time job, the responsibilities of tenancy and the pressures of society trying to force him to get a real job, to become another cog in someone else's machine, well, he could sit down with his journal and consciously plan out what he was going to do with a clear head. It will be like diving in the deep end and either sinking or swimming. Either he'll run out of money and have to come back to England, or he'll figure out a way to make money as he travels and then just keep on traveling. All he needs to do is save up as much as he can over the next few months, then choose a destination to begin. The rest will take care of itself. For some reason, France is the place that seems the best place to start. It's close enough that a flight will be cheap and easy to get. There's lots of families there looking for help from travelers to build sheds, plant seeds, or paint fences. Plus, he speaks a little French and can spend a couple of months improving his speaking skills, learning directly from the locals. Whether he decides to go west to Spain or east to the Alps and onwards, the warmer southern regions of France will be a great place to start his adventure. As he looks online for cheap rucksacks, he thinks for a moment about how similar his plan is to... And that concludes chapter 20. We will be continuing with chapter 21 very soon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And I will see you again soon.